Good evening, beloved citizens of Beach Church. I'm going to talk with you about Acts 13 through 15. And any discussion about Acts 13 to 15 that doesn't start off like this. Apostle Paul was really, really cool. That was a cool guy. If it doesn't start off like that, or if it doesn't understand that, then it's just missing the mark. I was attending a Messianic synagogue, and there were some beautiful, lovely things about it, and some other things that weren't. So we would all have a little bit of difficulty with them. One of the times I was sitting down, ganache or something. I forget what they called it when we all gather around. We might call it first fruits, but they had something like that every Saturday. Anyway, the food was good. That was good. But I was talking to this guy, and this guy had experienced some small degree of persecution at his church, not his church, his workplace. What he said to me was, "I have no use for Paul and his books." Now, this was a Messianic Jew, although I don't know if he was actually Jewish, because a lot of the people there were Hispanic, Haitian, I don't know, all sorts of different. Anyway, yeah, that's what he said. He had no use for it. Well, let me tell you a couple things, and I have a treat for you, because I'm going to tell you a couple things, and I'm going to show you a couple things, presentation-wise, a little bit under a minute video, to kind of leave a lasting impression in your minds. Acts 13 through 15, that shows us a man who knew that rejection wasn't failure, it was part of the mission. When religious leaders shut the door on Paul, sometimes with him inside, but this time Paul turned to the Gentiles. So the Jews didn't want to hear about Jesus as the Messiah. He would talk to the Gentiles. When mobs rose up, he moved on. When stones crushed his body, he stood back up and kept preaching. Now, just keep in mind, how many of us, I don't know. I have a special place in my heart for the martyrs. I used to put copies of the Voice of the Martyrs magazine out in the hallway outside of the sanctuary. I know not everybody has the stomach for that, but there's a lot of that going on right now in Nigeria, for instance. But all of these people that have suffered in the name of Christ, and there are, I think Paul obviously had very big kahunas, if you allow me. And I think the people at Beach Church have that same characteristic. But there's a lot of Christians who don't really understand the magnitude of what we're dealing with either. And of course, they set themselves up for some degree of spiritual warfare, although the devil isn't too concerned about them because they're not really getting it. But it's a big deal. It's a big deal that we have to stand for our religion, stand for Jesus. So many times Paul uses the word stand in just the first few verses around Ephesians 6 with the full armor of God. That word stand, so important. Anyway, this was simply Paul being obedient. When he had seen Christ on the Damascus road and that encounter rewired everything, his status, his safety, his reputation, none of it mattered compared to making Jesus known. You go home with a bloody nose, okay, you wake up tomorrow morning, feels a little funny, but it's probably not bleeding anymore. And then you go back out there again. Here's the part that convicts us today. Paul didn't just survive hardship, he expected it. He knew suffering was baked into the call. And he went anyway. When the church wrestled with how Gentiles could be saved, and it's all about circumcision or not circumcision and all that, Paul fought for grace, not rules. Remember, his background was as one of the leading Pharisees, Sadducees, I don't know what camp, but he had obviously changed into a new creature, and he said, not rules, not rituals, just Jesus. When Jesus on the Damascus road said to Paul, "Hey, why are you persecuting me?" Paul didn't have an answer. Then he went blind. Then something like scales fell off of his eyes, and he saw a whole new world. He wasn't interested in building his brand. He was helping building the kingdom. So when ministry gets messy, when the message gets rejected, I'll tell you, I was at a friend's wedding on Saturday of last week, several weeks ago now. And there were several people that I know from the place where I go and sing about Jesus at the open mics on Thursday nights. And they didn't even say hello to me. I know what they were thinking. They were thinking, first of all, this guy isn't his friend, one that's getting married. What's he doing here? Well, actually, he called me and invited me. He wanted me there. He wanted me to bring my guitar. I did bring my guitar. I didn't stick around to play it. I just thought it was a beautiful day, and I was happy for him. But they said not a word, nary a syllable to me during that whole time that I was there, which was several hours. And you know what? I don't care. They don't like that I'm singing about Jesus. They don't like that I've been singing about Jesus in their community for 3 years. They don't like that I just kind of showed up from out of nowhere someday and they've been living here all their lives and everything. And who am I to be coming around and yeah. I really don't care. I so much didn't care. I was just happy to be there and to root my friend on. But now we can't care about these things. We have to go out there. We have to stand for Jesus. You got to stand for something, or you're going to fall for anything. We know that what we're standing on is the rock. The only thing that can possibly give anybody in this forsaken, fallen world is Jesus. Period. As a matter of fact, they're singing all this Western music, cultural American music of the last. None of that would exist if it wasn't for Jesus. If it wasn't for Jesus and the followers. I mean, look at Handel, who wrote Messiah, was like the leading influence for Beethoven and Tchaikovsky and I don't know, all of these, he influenced all of them. And what was the source of anything that you might be listening to on the radio from the last, from 1950s on? I'm using the word because it's a technical description. The Negro spirituals, the black hymns, the music of even, black jazz gospel groups like Swan Silvertones and whoever. Sister, what's her name? Rosetta or Loretta Tharpe, she was the real originator of rock and roll even before Chuck Berry. But all of the music that they're playing on Thursday night, they could at least say thank you to Jesus, because they wouldn't even have that music to play if it wasn't for him. But so Paul didn't just endure his suffering. He boasted about it, but he wasn't boasting about him. He was boasting about the change that Jesus had put into him, into his heart. And that's something you can do any day of the week and twice on Sunday. The gospel is worth that. It's worth it to me, and I believe that it's worth it to you. Stand up for Jesus. Now I'm going to show you not a demonstration, but a presentation, which I just talked for 10 minutes. This is about another minute, so I hope you enjoy it. And God bless you all.
Paul refused to let rejection stop the gospel. That's what Acts 13 through 15 teaches us. When Jewish leaders threw him out of synagogues, he turned to the Gentiles. When entire cities rose up against him, he went to the next town. He got stoned, left for dead, and what did he do? Got up and kept preaching. This wasn't stubbornness. This was a man who understood his mission mattered more than his comfort. Paul saw Jesus on that Damascus road and everything changed. His credentials, his reputation, his safety, none of it compared to making Christ known. And here's what inspires us today. Paul didn't just endure hardship, he expected it. He knew suffering would come and he went anyway. When controversy erupted about how Gentiles could be saved, Paul fought for grace over legalism. He stood firm on the truth that faith in Jesus is enough. No additions, no requirements beyond Christ. His heart wasn't about building his own kingdom. It was about expanding God's. That's the standard. When we face opposition, when ministry gets hard, when people reject the message, we remember Paul. We get